Hello everybody, this is Jovino Santos Neto here speaking for Piano Groove, and so happy that you're joining me today to talk about music, the piano, Brazilian music. We're going to touch a little bit of everything today, so within an hour. First thing I want to talk about is really about a different concept for harmony, for something that has different names depending what flavor of music theory you subscribe to, and they're all good because it's good to have I think that to talk about musical theory in the singular is wrong. You can talk about ice cream in the singular, but then you talk about all the flavors of ice cream. Some people prefer one kind or the other. So in the case of the theories of music, instead of the theory of music, because then it assumes that there's only one. There's not only one. There's many different ways. They all have different points of view, different perspectives. So what we talk about today is what in some places is called resolution. In other flavors it's called cadences. So talk a little bit about those words. Resolution means to resolve something. First there's a fight, or there's a disagreement, and then it gets resolved, or when people come to an agreement and then it says, okay, the question is resolved. The question has been answered. So resolution is something that in a way lands at a place of high tension to less tension because there has been an agreement. The word cadence comes from the Latin cadere, which means to fall. You can think of words like decadence or decadent, or that means something that's falling. So falling assumes gravity, which of course, if you throw a ball up, the ball will come down. If you're walking in the street and you trip, it will fall down. All those are examples of cadence. A meteor falling into the earth, it's also cadence. In Portuguese, we call those cadence stars for meteors that come. So all that happens in music with a big difference. Cadence assumes gravity. Gravity assumes mass. And when we're talking about music, there's no weight. A C is not heavier than an F, or a G is not heavier than a C. So all those notes, how can we assume this idea of gravity in music? Even though there is no mass in music, there is something called a very relative gravity, which is an attraction. So what we have in music, and we talk about harmony and cadence and resolutions, is basically ways to throw that harmonic ball farther. But because music doesn't really work with distances, it works more with individual relationships. So if we think that a fifth is an arrow going down, what happens when you have the fifth of a fifth? So now I have this arrow and this arrow. But since in music the relationships are not linear, because music is not linear, so when we think of intervals, we start to think about ninth. Some of you are thinking, oh, that's a ninth to the 5 to the 1. But it doesn't go that far because everything is spiral and circular. So it's like this. That's what we call a 2-5-1. Nobody calls it a 9-5-1 because so the dominant of the dominant, which is the 2, goes that way. And then we can start to expand on that, but in a way that instead of thinking of long intervals, we start to think of what's known as orbital intervals. So instead of thinking of notes as laid along a ruler, and you start to measure the intervals, then you get to the 11th, the 13th, the 15th, the whatever. That doesn't work. Doesn't work because it works mentally, but it doesn't work sound-wise, because the reality of music, remember, the dynamic field of forces, is that all these notes are orbiting around that note. In this case, my C is a 1. That will be the sun. And all the other notes are orbiting around it. They don't go away. They are drawn to that note because of the relationships. So the 5-1 which is a fifth, it's also fourth, because the 5 above is the 4th below. So the 5th above is the 4th below, right? And the 2nd which is 1 second above, it's also has also an orbital relationship with the 7th. 1 second above, 1 second below. It could be minor, or like, a minor second or a major second. So those are intervals which, in a way, they play symmetrically, like, right? And then the 3rd and the 6th, and they're symmetrical because a minor 3rd, it is a minor 3rd above becomes a major 6. Major 3rd, minor 6. Minor 3rd, I'm sorry. So they're complementary in that sense that a major 6, when turned around, becomes a minor 3rd, and vice versa. And same thing with the 5th and the 4th, the 2nd and the 7th. There you have all your intervals. Everything up to the octave is already built as pairs of opposites which balance each other. They're never, none of these, except for the tritone, is a perfect circle in an orbit. They are all little flattened orbits. And you notice that also when you see the orbits of the planets around the sun, they're never perfect circles. They're flattened. Some go really far, some go a little far. So the 5 and the 4th, and so is the major 6, it's actually minor 3rd. Minor 6, major 3rd, and so on and so forth. The tritone represents, in this sense, the farthest spot you can get away, like an elastic rubber band. If you'll be throwing the ball with and it's tied to a rubber band, the most it can go away, that's the tritone. And when it gets to the 5th, it's a 4th again. So the tritone stretches and then it becomes a 4th again and a 3rd. So that's what I mean, this idea of elastic, flexible, almost like liquid-like intervals orbiting around a note. And that only happens while the note is the 1, because it could be that we change chords, and then that C, if we go from C to D minor, now that 1 becomes a 7th, and everything rechanges. So the relationships are constantly moving and changing. I'm going to try to now throw that ball a little farther away. So check this out. If I have the, okay, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1. Now I'm going to go to the 3. I'm throwing it a little farther away. And I can use E minor. I can use E half diminished to an A, which could be A minor or A7, with all the possible variations of flat 9s and flat 13s, back to the D. Could also be a D7 to 5. So now, okay, and once more, 3, 6, 2, 5. Now let's go a little farther to the 4th, to the 4th minor, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 5. Now I'm going to send it back again to the G minor, to the C7. Nice practice. I'm going to go a little farther to the F sharp. I can go to B, to E minor, A minor, right? D minor, to the G7, to 1. Once again. See, the tritone is very interesting. The first time I did F sharp to B. Now I'm going to do F sharp to an F minor. E could be a B flat to an A. And the D could also be A flat to a G. So you see how this cycle, and I have no more, because after the F sharp, that's the end of the road. Not the end of the road, it's the end of that elastic line. So I just went through all the possibilities, not all, because there's many more depending on how you voice those chords. Sevenths, minors. Sometimes you can use sevenths. If you use the seventh, you can have your flexible ninths or seconds, or the flexible 13ths or sixths. They are all like flexible branches of that arboreal concept. And that's how that works. And any last minute questions, otherwise you can always feel free on the Piano Groove community chat to send me a message. I usually get those. And if I miss them, Hayden will send them to me. And I really appreciate everybody's presence here. I hope that people have enjoyed. Again, I'm available if you need anything else, okay? All the best to you. Have a great time. Bye-bye.